Gregor Townsend has announced the Scotland squad for the upcoming Rugby World Cup, and there are no major surprises. My name's Mark, let's talk rugby. Okay, so let's start by just going through the squad that was picked. So forwards, you got Ewan Ashman, Jamie Batty, Dave Cherry, Luke Crosby, Scott Cummings, Roy Dard, Jack Dempsey, Matt Fagerson, Xander Fagerson, Grant Gilchrist, Richard Gray, David Pinell, Jamie Ritchie, Pierre Schumann, Yavin Sebastian, Sam Skinner, Rory Sutherland, George Turner and Hamish Watson. In the backs then you got Darcy Graham, Blair Kinghorn, Chris Harris, Ben Healy, George Horn, Hugh Jones, Ali Price, Cameron Redpath, Finn Russell, Ollie Smith, Kyle Stain, Sione Tupolatu, Duhan van der Merwe and Ben White. So it's a 19-14 split between forwards and backs there. In terms of players that missed out, like the biggest name would be Stuart McInally, but he'd already announced he was going to retire after the Rugby World Cup because he's going to basically train as a commercial pilot. So, he's probably going to be on standby, I imagine, he was the next man up for Hooker. So it wouldn't be, too surprising if he's on a standby list that gets announced. You've also got Murphy Walker, Josh Bayliss and Jamie Dobie, all, were in the training squad but didn't actually make the selection. Then we've got Stuart Hogg, who retired about a month ago, right? Because his recovery, he retired completely from rugby, not just from internationals. In his case, I think that he'd reached a stage before he got injured where he wasn't considered first choice anymore at fullback, and he probably would have had competition for the 23 shirt in for big games, the likes of the pool match against South Africa and Ireland. So I'm not sure whether his retirement had a huge effect on the squad. Like if it had been a couple of years ago, it would have been a major thing for them. But I think that this squad has gotten stronger since then, and his influence on the squad has kind of waned as his kind of physical prowess, I guess you would say, has waned as he's kind of gotten older and picked up knocks and stuff. Also, Johnny Gray didn't make it. He's out injured as well. I think dislocated kneecap for him. So very sad. He hasn't made it. Also Hogg, even though it would have been just a bit of a swan song for me, may have been 23rd man or coming in for injuries or stuff like that. But you always want to see players like that being at the Rugby World Cup. So it's a bit sad for both of those not to make it. But every team that's going to the World Cup will have some really quality players who unfortunately have to watch them back home because of injury. We had Entamac at the weekend being ruled out top player. And so I think overall Scotland, couple of players missing out there, but so far at least no huge injury worries for them. In terms of other players who missed out as well, then you had players who were released kind of earlier in the training squad. So you had Adam Hastings, Kyle Rowe, Cameron Henderson and Stafford McDowell. I think of those, Adam Hastings may have had a chance there, but then you had who was it, Ben Healy coming into the squad, kind of changed the dynamic there. I think Stafford McDowell maybe in after the Rugby World Cup, I think you're going to see him maybe come a bit more to the fore. I think maybe Chris Harris, who's included in the squad, may kind of start drifting away from the squad after that, and maybe Stafford McDowell will come in, or maybe it's going to be somebody else. You never know, right? Sport and rugby is just like that. But let's have a look at the squad itself. So, you got Ewan Ashman there, who would have been maybe one of the, I'm not going to say how would you put it, wouldn't be first choice, but certainly deserves a place in the squad. Jamie Batty, is probably going to be probably on the bench in a lot of the big games. Dave Cherry, I think himself and George Turner probably going to be like battling out for maybe the 2 jersey in the Rugby World Cup. We got Luke Crosby there as well. Scott Cummings, Rory Darge, Jack Dempsey, Matt Ferguson, all amazing back row players. I think, Scotland have a very strong back row, but a lot of the teams going to Rugby World Cup do too. But you got Sander Ferguson there as well. Got Grant Gilchrist and Richie Gray for the second row. I think second row is maybe the area where they're a little bit kind of lighter compared to the strength it have in other areas. Got W. Nell, who's shown recently, his value to the team, the same as Pierre Schumann. Jamie Ritchie, the captain. Yavin Sebastian will be another one who's kind of, recently involved in the squads. You got Sam Skinner there too, Rory Sutherland, Turner, Hamish Watson under amazing back row. So looking at the forwards, like there's plenty of competition in the forwards there. And, any of those players really, you could see coming in and doing a job. Obviously, certain players like the likes of Xander Ferguson will be automatic, choice if they're available for the spot. But in other areas, there's a lot of competition, especially as I said, in that back row for them. Into the backs then you got Darcy Graham, who is just scoring tries for fun. Blair Kinghorn, who, he's the reason why I think that if Hogg had been fit, he wouldn't have started 15, because then Kinghorn has shown that he offers more now than Hogg. I'm not saying he's a better player than Hogg at his peak, just saying he offers more now. And the fact that he can come in to the line as, a second receiver, a second playmaker as well, is great. We saw it at the weekend as well. What a lovely kick through for, I think it was Staines' second try, right? In behind, just waited perfectly in that. And it's just the ability to spot that's on, and then the ability to actually deliver it as well. You got Chris Harris there, who, a year ago people would have said he's going to be the starting, 13 for the Rugby World Cup, and it's since the Six Nations all changed really. He's probably going to be fighting out for the 23 jersey probably, and may not get it, depending on who's available in terms of what positions they can cover as well. You got Ben Healy later on in there, like switch allegiance from Ireland, and for me, as an Irish fan, I wish him all the best. I hope he has a great World Cup. He showed in the game against Italy, right, what he can actually offer at 10. Obviously, you're not going to start him ahead of Finn Russell if it's a big game and Russell is available, but his game management was excellent, and he's got a great boot on him as well, and he can still run the back line. It's not like he can't pass the ball. He's obviously not up to Russell's skills in that area, but there are parts of his game I think that are better than Finn Russell's, and to have him there for the games against the likes of Romania or even Tonga, I think really will help them in that regard as well. It means it takes pressure off Russell having to potentially start every game as well. And you got George Horn there. You got Horn, Price, and Ben White all battling out for that 9 jersey. I still don't think that the best number 9 has been settled, and we might see that it actually changes through the tournament. Maybe one of them will obviously start as the favourite number 9, but that might change by the end of the pool. You got Hugh Jones there, excellent Six Nations from him. Cameron Redpath will be battling, I guess, with Healy, right, for that kind of backup spot, and it's going to be interesting as well because you got Kinghorn will probably start at 15, so he covers 10 anyway. So does that mean that you don't really need a 10 on the bench? Do you go for a 6-2 split, or do you have maybe someone like Chris Harris on there instead, and then maybe someone who can cover a bit more, kind of wing and outside back there too? So they've got a lot of options there, and depending on which way they want to go, I think you're going to go with either Healy or Redpath on the bench. given what the other person or the other backs on the bench are gonna cover. You've got Finn Russell, like, there aren't enough superlatives for a player of that ability. I think that if DuPont wasn't around, I think Russell he gets a lot of credit, but I think he'd get even more credit for being such a special player. Very lucky, with this generation of players that there are so many to run around. But he's, I think in terms of this generation for Scotland, certainly the pick of the bunch. And you got Ollie Smith, great try saving tackle there at the weekend from him. And, I don't know whether that was a deciding factor, whether it was that close, but certainly showed that he can deliver. Kyle Steyn, I don't think he'll start on the wing because, he's up against Darcy Graham and Duhan van der Merwe, but he's the kind of player he's shown that if he does get that start, or even if he's coming off the bench or wherever, he's going to give you something, and he's not going to let the side down. Sione Tuipulotu, that partnership with Hugh Jones was excellent in Six Nations. Haven't seen as much of them in terms of a combination in the warm-up games. They've been kind of more individual stuff, but still both of them playing fairly well. Duhan van der Merwe had an excellent Six Nations, scored an amazing try against England, but that's not all that he offers. And he's going to be a starter if he's available. And then we talk about Ben White as well, being in that three-way battle, I think, for the 9 shirt. And I think through the tournament, you're going to see each of the 9s, as I said, some will start as kind of the starter, as it were, the one in favour, then you'll have the backup. But the third 9 I don't think will be out of it the way maybe in other squads you would have a drop off from number 2 to number 3. I think all 3 of these guys are very competitive, and any one of them could go from being the starter to the guy sat in the stands, for any given game as well. So it's just about who takes their chance, really, when they get out there, and shows that, if they do get the 9 on the back, they need to show that they're going to keep it, because they're going to have 2 excellent players nipping at the heels. But, looking at the squad overall, I think this is by far the best Scotland squad has gone to Rugby World Cup. Even compared to 2019 was a decent one. Obviously didn't get out of their pool, and they were disappointed by that. But I think Scotland have gotten stronger since then. And you look at the squad, and there's not many players in there that you would consider to be filler players. And I mean filler players by the fact that they're only going to play, let's say, against Romania, and unless there are injuries, they're not going to play in any of the other games. Previously in 33, let's say 4 years ago, even 33-man Scotland squad, you might say that there were, maybe half a dozen or more players who would fit the filler category, as it were. But in this squad, as I said, there aren't that many. Maybe in, with some of the front rowers, and the fact that you have to carry 3 of them, that some of those players, because of maybe lack of experience, wouldn't be seen as, automatic starters, but still, players like that, we've seen it before, can go to World Cup, and whatever it is, some players under the pressure of World Cup wilt, some just absolutely revel in it, and that could happen there as well. Some of the players that you're looking at that squad and thinking, oh, they're third choice in their position, could end up coming out as one of the stars of the World Cup as well. So, and with the Scotland squad, I think it's just full of quality. And I would say to, fans of, my nation, Ireland and South Africa, that if you're already thinking like that, our main worry is whether we get France or New Zealand in the quarterfinal, I think you have to think again, because this Scotland team will absolutely put it up to either of our teams in that World Cup. And if we're not on our best, I think they've shown in the warm-ups that they can absolutely take advantage of that. And if they hit stride as well, they've shown that they can score a lot of points in a very short period of time. So yeah, I think it's an excellent squad, and I'd like to hear what your thoughts are on it.